Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard
Dalton Phillips.
and we're joined by special guest.
Joey Simmons.
Looking forward to a pretty good week of pick'ems here. We'll start us off with our Mountain Dew segment for the week. We've all got our own flavor here, so I don't know if we'll let the special guest Joey. You go ahead and go first, pal.
I got the Mountain Dew Voltage.
Voltage, phenomenal flavor. Had it last week. It's a go-to.
Yeah, it's not a go-to. Bob Blast to go to, but I went with watermelon this time. Had to pour it in the cup.
A little bit of Major Melon.
Yeah.
All right, I'm rocking with the Mountain Dew Voodoo mystery flavor.
Oh, hey, I've never seen that one before. What's the flavor?
To me, it tastes a lot like a candy. It's a little bit of nerds. Sweet.
Oh, yeah. Nerd. I've heard that before.
But I mean, other than that, really, I think we hop into it. We got us a good week of games and some big ones on this slate. Starting us off, Friday game. So that's at the beginning this week, usually at the end. Got Virginia Tech traveling to Miami to play against the Miami Hurricane. Obviously, rough game. One of the best teams in the country. Miami is definitely scary to run into right now, especially the way Cam Ward's playing. Looking at
Heisman, that's a Heisman right there. He is the Heisman. Yeah,
he's been the clear favorite in Heisman so far. Looking at the stats, passing wise, Kyron Drones, he struggled in certain games this year, but it's kind of the thing of we play bad in the first half and then we play good in the second half. He looks like a different player in the second half. And then for Cam Ward, I mean, you can see 1,400 yards on the season, 14 touchdowns. And like we said before, obviously looks like the clear Heisman option. Don't know that you got some stats on Miami's running backs.
Yeah, Jordan Law is the lead back. He's got 233 yards in the year. That's a pretty good season, especially having a go-to quarterback like that.
Yeah,
because he's not going to get as many carries because of that.
Yeah, going back to Cam Ward, I mean, he's like a warden because when you play against him, you're kind of in prison. I mean, he can run on you. He's a great passer. I mean, he's a do-it-all type of quarterback. Now, Bashawn Tootin, running back for the Tech, man, he's played great this past few games.
He's a stud. Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's fantastic, man. Going back to last year's bowl game even versus Tulane, man, he played phenomenal. And yeah, he's just had a great year so far. And then Lyle has played well. I mean, almost 9 yards per carry, if I'm doing the math correctly.
Yeah.
Restrepo is obviously great.
Yeah.
About 15, a little bit more than 15 yards per catch. So, yeah, he's almost averaging a touchdown per game. So, if the secondary can lock up Restrepo, I mean, it's going to be tough for Tech to pull out this win.
Yeah.
But they can do it if all the pieces are clicking, like you said earlier. Kyron Jones is the second half player. If he can take that second half and replicate it in the first half, I know that's kind of paradoxical, but if he can just start off hot, I think he has a good chance. If you can scare Miami early, it's just get down to the morale.
Because USF almost did that a couple weeks ago. They almost scared them there.
Yeah. USF gave him a game in the first half.
Yeah.
It was big with Tech. I mean, like you talk about Tootin. I mean, Tootin is the key to them getting going. They said in practice this week that he has looked the healthiest he's looked all year since game one, which is huge because he's only been taking about 13 to 15 carries the last 2-3 games due to injuries. So if they can get him rolling, and I think it's one of those things where Tech, they're not going to come out hot. We don't ever come out hot. It's about coming out and keeping the game close.
Keep it close because if y'all play good in the second half, you're going to win the ball game because
you can win against them. And to stop them, of course, it's their elite passing attack.
Yeah.
We have a guy that we can put one-on-one on Restrepo on the outside. Dorian Strong is a guy that will be in the NFL next year. He can match up on Restrepo. It's all about can we stop the rest of the guys on that team.
Antoine Powell-Ryland, I mean, APR, he's played phenomenal. He had 4 sacks a few weeks ago. I mean, if he can just be a threat down there, just cause some pressure, cause some havoc, make Cam Ward not act so nonchalantly, make him have to have pressure. I mean, that can get to the quarterback early and just make him make bad decisions.
Yeah, APR has 6 sacks on the year, which is that's leader of all.
That's leading everything, yeah.
Yeah, and they will need pass rush to get to him to affect him. Going to make a pick in this game? I'll let you lead us, Joey.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people like to pick upsets. I think it's one of the things that people just like to do. They want to see it. But I'm just going to be conservative here. I think Miami's played great all year. Now, going back to last year, they started out 4-0. Then they had a big game where they lost versus Georgia Tech, I believe. And they kind of went downhill from there. Mm-hmm. But I have Miami pulling this game out. Cam Ward's looked phenomenal this season. I mean, the run games look good. The receiving's obviously good with Cam Ward having, 1,400 yards already through 4 games. I mean, shoot. So I'm going to go with the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I'm going to go with – I want to go Tech because – I mean, that's probably my second favorite team. I hate to say it. I would never would have claimed that before. But I'm going to go Miami because, I mean, Miami's just that good. But Tech is liable to play a good game with them because that's what Tech does. Tech sticks in with people they shouldn't and lose to people they shouldn't do. So, I mean, I'm going to go Miami there.
Going to make a pick here, of course, it's so hard to go against your own team. I mean, everybody knows that
Yeah.
when you're picking games. And it was before the season started, I said that this was one of those games that I like a lot going into it because Tech does play up to competition generally. So this week I'm gonna take Tech. I'm gonna rely on the fact that we will start out well, but it's of course a game where we're definitely the heavy underdogs. All right, next game here. This is obviously a fun one. I mean, it's two teams in the conference that have to get a win this week. Um, Oklahoma State, of course, coming off a rough loss in the conference play, expect to be one of the better teams, as well as Kansas State. And it's about can they both get their passing game going again this week. Of course, looking at the leading passers on both teams, Bowman has played well this year. He struggled at times, and last game you could really pin it on him as his mistakes might have lost him that game. The other side of the ball, Avery Johnson. I mean, as you can see, his passing stats are not phenomenal this year. But through 4 games, he is one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the country, and that's where he really carries the offense. They have a lot of plays drawn around him, and that helps the running game in general. Dalton, if you want to go ahead and lead on that.
Yeah, Ollie Gordon played bad last game. Like for Ollie Gordon, because I mean he had like game, but you can't when you're Ollie Gordon and you're dependent on by your team. You can't do that. Kansas State has ran the ball all year. That's what they do. They found their identity and they run the ball. Behind Giddens at running back and Avery Johnson at quarterback, they both are great runners. And if they do it in this game, I think they can win because of the struggling running game on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, as Maggard talked about last week and Dalton just talked about, I mean, their running game is it's so prevalent in their offense. It's a key point. Avery Johnson talked about last week. Avery Johnson's probably the best scrambling quarterback, top 3 at least. DJ Giddens, fantastic runner. Now for Oklahoma State, like Dalton talked about, I mean, Ollie Gordon, he just has to get going. He has to have this breakthrough game. I really do think, I mean, if he can have this game where he has 125, 150 yards, maybe with 2 touchdowns, just opens up Oklahoma State's offense. They can be one of the top teams in the Big 12. But it's just not worked out for him yet. I don't know what it is, really. He just hasn't had that type of fire that he had last year. Don't know if it's the O-line or he's just not making reads. But he was one of the Heisman favorites, and he's not playing as well as people expected him to this year.
Last year, with him running so well, they had a top 25 passing offense as well. So the offense was really rolling because Gordon created – I mean, teams had to load the box, and their passing game become much better because of him. Looking at receivers for both teams, talked about Jace Brown last week. He's great at Kansas State, big-time playmaker, and they have to start getting him the ball more in the passing game. And then on the other side, Oklahoma State has 2 really good receivers in Deshaun Stribling, and then, of course, Talon Chetron, who both last week have underwhelming games with the performance of Bowman not being up to pace with who they played. Going to make a pick in this one. This is a pretty tough game to pick. I mean, you have 2 teams that need to get a win right now if they want to win a championship in the Big 12 and make the playoffs. I'll take lead here. I think I'm going to pick Kansas State. I think home game. I think the prevalent rushing attack, and I think that will get it done. And I think Avery Johnson will figure out how to pass a little bit more in this game, and it's just going to be enough to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kansas State also there. I just see Kansas State absolutely blowing them out of the water with their rushing attack.
Yeah, and to juxtapose Dalton, I'm going to pick Oklahoma State. I mean, I think Ollie Gordon has to have this breakthrough game. I mean, he's one of the best backs in the country, indisputably.
Yep, he is.
But I mean, if he can have his breakthrough game, like I was talking about, versus Kansas State, I think it opens it up for the rest of the season. Like Maggard talked about, opens up the passing game. Just get one big run, couple big runs, just opens up the passing game, which is something they needed.
All right, next game here. I mean, this is huge. Massive game. I mean, has big-time implications for if these 2 teams want to compete in the conference. Indiana comes into this game 4-0. This is one of their best starts in many years. And Maryland coming in at 3-1. Also, a pretty big improvement for how they've played over the last couple of years. Looking at the stats, I mean, Billy Edwards, as you can see, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's not horrible through 4 games. And that passing attack is very prevalent. It is definitely what they rely on to win football games. Looking at the other side of the ball, Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke, he was amazing 2 years ago. One of the best quarterback seasons in college football, at a small college, of course. But his performance that season, if he can replicate that to a power conference, I mean, you can expect big things out of this Indiana team. Dalton, if you want to cover the running backs here.
Yeah, both teams have a pretty decent running game. Not fantastic, but Maryland's pretty good behind Roman Hemby. He's their lead back, but they tend to spread the ball around quite a bit. Indiana running back Justin Ellison has also played pretty good this year, so it'll be a good matchup there. But they both don't have great running backs, but I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, both quarterbacks haven't been too turnover prone with Billy Edwards. I mean, only throwing 2 interceptions. That's not bad through 4 games. And then Curtis Rourke, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's played really well this year. And then obviously Ty Felton, man, he's played fantastic this year. Over 4 games, almost 150 yards a game with 5 touchdowns. I mean, kind of a dark horse for Bolitnikov so far this year.
I mean, the star is Ty Felton. I mean, 41 catches, 604 yards, 5 touchdowns. And if you go back and look at the game logs, he's had one game where he had under 50 yards, every other game over 150. Dude has been phenomenal all year. He is 100% the key to winning this game. And then on the other side of the ball, Indiana receiver Elijah Surratt. I mean, he followed his coach from JMU, Kirk Cignetti. That's where he was at before, as Dalton mentioned, and
Yep.
he brought a lot of his skill positions with him. And so it's pretty key to have those dudes on this team because I mean, you know how important it is to have a connection with the head coach. Going to make a pick in this one, not an easy one, of course. And Joey, I'll let you lead it.
Yeah. I've been a low-key Hoosiers fan for most of my life, so I have a connection to Indiana. So this might be a little biased, but I mean, they don't have the playmaker like a Ty Felton, but I think they're more well-rounded overall. Their running game was a little bit better. Their quarterback hasn't thrown an interception this year. They can just keep the turnovers down, play smart, play conservatively, and just limit how much Ty Felton can do. I think the Hoosiers get the win.
I'm going to go with Indiana. I've trust in the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you, actually. I think we're going to go three-way sweep here on Indiana. I believe in the hype, and I think Cignetti is a phenomenal coach. I mean, you saw what he did at JMU last year. A 12-1 season is amazing at a non-Power 5 school, and I think he continues his success at Indiana. Next game here, I mean, this is a huge game. I mean, for both teams, Louisville looks to continue to be undefeated, and Notre Dame, I mean, again, if they have one more loss, it's going to be hard to make the playoffs for them, especially after NIU fell last week. Looking at the stats, Louisville quarterback Tyler Shaw, he's been awesome on the year. 850, 8 touchdowns through 3 games. That's phenomenal. Of course, he is throwing to a stud in Ja'Cory Brooks. Big-time receiver. Catches a lot of big passes. He had a huge game last week. Was very important to the win over Georgia Tech. And then, of course, looking at Notre Dame, QB transfer, Riley Leonard. He's looked phenomenal with them this year. He doesn't have the greatest weapons to throw to, but his ability to run the ball this year has drastically improved from last year, and he wasn't even a bad running quarterback last year. He helps the run game a lot, and they do have a stud back. Dalton, if you want to talk about these two teams running the ball.
Yeah, Isaac Brown, he played pretty bad last week, but I can see him having a little rebound game here. And on the other side of the ball, Jeremiah Love, he's a stud. And, it's easy to be a stud. It's not easy to be a stud, but when you have a quarterback that can go for 12 carries and 143 yards and 2 touchdowns at rushing, that's not passing stats, that's rushing stats. Yeah. At quarterback, that's absurd, and I would love to see both of them get going because if you get 200 yards with them two to combine together, yeah, nobody's gonna stop you.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to beat them with the offensive line they have and that running attack.
Yeah, Riley Leonard hasn't looked the great passing this year, but I mean his run game last week, 140 some yards. I mean, fantastic. Opened up the game for Jeremiah Love as well. He's played fantastic this year. I mean, you go a few years back to Stanford running back Bryce Love. I mean, these Loves are great runners. Yeah. And then like Mike Maggard talked about, Ja'Cory Brooks looked fantastic this year as well. It should be a good game.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Like I said, has big implications for playoff spots. You want to make a pick in this one? Notre Dame is not the easiest place to go and play. Those fans show up. And again, Louisville has looked strong, and Notre Dame has definitely struggled at times. It could be a little ACC bias here, but I think to me, Louisville has looked like the better football team so far. I'm gonna side with Louisville here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Louisville too. I like Notre Dame because of the Rudy. I'm a big Rudy guy. I love the movie, but I just don't see that offense going because outside of the run game, their passing attack is not very good, and I feel like that's scary against a Louisville team that's just that good at the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna kind of go the opposite way. I'm gonna go with Notre Dame. I mean, I think having one of these guys like Riley Leonard can set apart Notre Dame from Louisville. I think they're just a better overall team again. And yeah, I got them Fighting Irish.
Next game here. This is massive in the SEC. I mean, you got two teams coming in 1-0 in their conference, but this is going to be in a neutral site, played at AT&T Stadium. It's the Southwest Classic. Sadly, this will be the last year of this game in AT&T Stadium. They did not resign to play there, and it's truly surprising because it's such a massive rivalry between the two schools. They've been playing this game for 80 years, and that's going to change things when they're not playing it in that stadium. Looking at the stats for both teams. Of course, we've talked about Taylor Green and how much of an athlete he is when he especially comes to running the ball as a quarterback. For the other side, A&M quarterback Connor Wegman is done. Marcel Reed takes over as the lead quarterback, and last week he looked pretty good. He did enough to get him a win. Now, they struggled with Bowling Green, but it was enough. Dalton, if you want to talk about the running attack.
Yeah, Arkansas's run game is very good. They have that dynamic backfield attack like that some of those teams that we've been covering do have too. As a quarterback, he can run that good, and Jaquindon Jackson is also the leading back in the SEC for rushing yards, and that's impressive because you have some crazy names below you there. A&M, Le'Veon Moss, he's pretty good. He played really good last game, but both teams have great run games.
They have a dynamic runner in Le'Veon Moss, but like I said, Marcel Reed coming in as the new quarterback, it changes the dynamic of that football team. Wegman was not running. He was a statue in the pocket. Marcel Reed went for, I think, 92 rushing yards last week, so that is definitely key. It definitely changes the offense, allows them to be more flexible in the offense.
Yeah, just going back to the key for both teams in this game is the running attack. With getting Reed in the game now, having a quarterback back there who can scramble out, like you said, 92 yards, with also Taylon Green, one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic quarterback in the whole nation. I mean, it really is that backfield, like how well they can run. And if someone can open up the receiving game as well and get these guys out to make plays, scrambling, running the ball, I mean, I think that's big for both teams.
Again, like we said, this is a rivalry. These two teams don't like each other, and it's going to be the last time playing in this stadium. It's going to mean something for both teams beyond the fact of it's just conference ball and it matters if you win. It's also a rivalry and the last time ever in AT&T. I mean, going to make a pick here. Texas A&M, technical home team. It is in their home state, so it's definitely an advantage. They're probably going to have more fans at the game. I'll let you lead on this one, Dalton.
I'm going to go Arkansas. I like that running attack that they're bringing down there in Arkansas. I like that quite a bit. And I'm not all with that Texas A&M. I'm not with them at all. They're just haven't really proved anything to me this year. Even though they have a different quarterback this week, I'm going to go Arkansas here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Texas A&M this time. You know, the running game for them with the new quarterback, I think that's going to be imperative for them. I have faith in the Aggies.
I know how much it means to both these schools to win the final time that they're playing this rivalry in that stadium. And I think it's going to mean a lot to Texas A&M, especially it being their home state. But I'm going to have to pick against the sweetheart story of A&M wrapping it up in their home state. I think Arkansas is just a little bit better. Their run game is extremely deadly with a great quarterback and arguably the best running back in the SEC. Next game here. First time we've talked about Ohio State this year. They haven't had a lot of big-time games at the beginning of the year. They generally open with a pretty light non-conference schedule. And this is a big one. I mean, Michigan State is better than I think people thought they would be at 3-1. And it's going to be important to see how the quarterbacks play in this one. Of course, looking at the quarterbacks, Will Howard, we know he was a big-time transfer. He was coming in. He's coming to make a difference because they struggled last year with McCord, and Will Howard was supposed to be that difference maker that carries them over the top to be one of the top teams in the country. As you can see on the season, he has 795 yards, 6 touchdowns, and that's him not playing very much. They have blown out the 3 teams they've played because, again, not very good competition. On the other side, Childs for MSU, 891, 4 touchdowns. Now, what scares you?
That's bad.
That is very, very rough through the 4 games that they have played. And to beat a team like Ohio State, you have to protect the ball. You have to. It is at the utmost importance to not turn the ball over against Ohio State. The rushing attack is going to be super important for both these teams. Dalton, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, Judkins is insane. He's one of those top backs in the country there already. I don't like Ohio State, but he makes me like Ohio State because he's such a great athlete. I love watching him. And he went off last game with 173 yards on 14 carries. That's crazy. Over 10 yards a carry. That's absurd. And 2 touchdowns. TreVeyon Henderson is also a back for them. He's played pretty well too. He had 2 touchdowns last game too. Yeah, for Michigan State, their running back is pretty good. K'Ron Lynch-Adams. He's pretty good. He almost has 300 rushing yards on the year, and that says something. That means he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So,
for both of these teams, the running game will be important because you have to open up the game a little bit. You have to control the game, and especially for Michigan State. If their quarterbacks turn the ball over that much, they have to control the game with their running backs. And like you mentioned, on the other side of the ball, OSU, Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson is arguably 2 of the top 10 backs in the country, and they have them on the same team. The running game is deadly for them, and it will matter in this game how fast they can get going and if they can control the game as well.
Yep, and then having Jeremiah Smith as well, one of the best freshman receivers in the country, debatably the best, not in my opinion. But he's played well this season, especially fantastic for a freshman. Judkins and Henderson in the backfield is crazy. Will Howard's played well this year for limited amounts of time that he's been playing because they've been blowing teams out. Yeah, and for Michigan State, they have to limit turnovers. That's a key point for them. 7 interceptions through 4 games. Can't have that.
No. As you can see, like you said, you mentioned Jeremiah Smith. They also have Emeka Egbuka. barring the injury last year, it was going to be Marvin Harrison and Mecca Ibuka, which was going to be two of the best receivers in the country on the same team. He's back, and they have Jeremiah Smith to replace the Marvin Harrison role. And now, I'm not saying he's Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison is phenomenal, but he is a very, very good young player. All right, going to make a pick on this one. Of course, Michigan State gets the home game here, and the fans are going to need to show up for this one because this is a big-time opponent. I'm going to go Ohio State in this one. I think they are one of the top 3 teams in the country, and I think they'll beat Michigan State pretty bad, actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ohio State, even though I hate Ohio State. Cannot stand Ohio State at all. I don't really like anybody in the Big Ten at all. But that they haven't played anybody. This is gonna be their first big test. But I'm gonna go Ohio State because that Michigan State team I don't think they're good enough to compete with all the athletes they have over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3-0 here. I'm gonna go Ohio State. I think all of us are picking Ohio State. Almost as many picks as Childs has thrown this year. But yeah, I think the Buckeyes pulled it out.
Close.
All right, next game here. The Fighting Illini coming off a big win last week against Nebraska in overtime. And then, of course, you got Penn State. Now, going to Penn State to play is not easy at all, and we'll see what Illinois can do to handle that one. Looking at stats, passing leaders, Luke Altmaier. Altmaier is very consistent in his quarterback play, as you can see by looking at his stats. I mean, a good completion percentage, no interceptions. He protects the ball. He does everything you expect a veteran quarterback to do. And in that Nebraska game, he was the key to them winning because he was so careful with the ball and only made correct decisions. It looked like he didn't make mistakes. And on the other side, Drew Aller, they need him to play well. It was a story last year that they didn't think Drew Aller could win them football games. This year, he's looked a lot better. 41 for 58, 729 yards, 8 touchdowns, only 1 pick through 3 games. He's playing well, and that's the key. These two quarterbacks, it's going to be important that they both play up to the level that we expect of them. Dalton, they have phenomenal running games if you want to talk about.
Yeah, Illinois, we talked about them last week. Their run game is pretty dang good because they have 3 backs, and they're all pretty good. Fegan and McCray get most of carries, but that having 3 backs that can all take carries and get good yardage per play, that's all you need to win football games. And you're going to need it against a Penn State team like this because on the other side of the ball, Nick Singleton is a stud. Like, he is another one of those top backs in the country, and I would like to see him show off against this Illinois defense.
Yeah. Going to the quarterback situation again. I mean, Allers looked great. Like Maggard said, last year, a lot of question marks around him, but he's played really well this year, stepped up to the competition. Luke Altmaier, safe with the ball, good decision maker, type of guy you want at quarterback. Now, he's going to not win you some games, but he's definitely not going to lose you some games by throwing some interceptions, some costly ones. That.
Yeah, looking at the receiving game for both teams, Pat Bryant, we talked about it last week at Illinois. He is their stud on the outside. You don't talk about a lot of Illinois teams with superstar receivers, but Pat Bryant has looked like that so far. As you can see, 6 touchdowns in their 4 games. He's obviously the key target. I talked about it in our review session. Watching that game, they have some very unique sets for Pat Bryant. Like I said last week, he lined up in at the fullback position and ran a route out of the fullback into the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown. He does unique things, and he's an elite athlete. For Penn State, Tyler Warren, he is the solid target for Aller to go to. As you can see, 16 catches, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's only in 3 games, and they expect a lot out of him in this game. Going to make a pick here. This one's not easy. This is 2 very competitive teams in their conference, and both of them with wins here, it definitely elevates them into conversation of this is easily one of the top 3 teams in the conference. Joey, I'll let you lead us on this one.
Yeah, first things first, though, I want to say Bowling Green has played 2 top 25 ranked teams close, Penn State and Texas A&M. So shout out to them. But yeah, I'm going to go with Illinois here, kind of surprisingly. I think Penn State finds a way to choke the game every single year. And now Penn State is at home, so I might regret that. But I think Illinois has played well. Like I said earlier, Altmaier is safe with the ball. I think that's the type of guy you need in games like this.
Yeah, I'm going to go right off the bat, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I think Illinois is going to play a great game because they can run the ball so well. But you're at Penn State. That's a hard place to play at, if not the hardest place to play out in the country. And I'm going to go with Penn State there.
Yeah, Joey, I'm actually going to agree with you. I like the upset. I like Luke Altmaier. I like the way he plays. I think him as a veteran quarterback, it's his time. It's their time as a team. If they're going to win, they better do it now. You're started out 4-0. You've got a big win in the conference already. You win this one, this elevates you into a potential. You talk about them being a top 10 team.
Yeah.
And you're definitely saying they're in that 11, 12, 13 area.
Yeah.
And it'd be a massive start to the season for Illinois. Next game here. This one is massive. We got big time implications for Boise State and Washington State. Washington State now not being considered a power team, so they're going to have to also, for them, they don't play a conference championship game. They have to sneak into the playoffs based solely on ranking. That is the only way they get in, is based on their ranking. And that is not going to be easy. This is obviously one of those opportunities to get a massive win over a Mountain West team that is definitely a top 25 team and has looked that way so far. Going down to look at the stats. Passing wise, Mateer, I mean, we talk about how good of a runner he is. He has 1,100 passing yards on the season, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's 1 per game. We like to tone that down just a little bit, but I mean, the dude's just out there trying to make plays.
Yep.
On the other side, Boise State. It was kind of a controversial decision to start Maddox Madsen over Malachi Nelson to start the year. But Madsen has done his job. They don't need him to be a superstar because they have a superstar at running back. Dalton, if you want to talk about that guy.
Yeah. Ginty is the best running back in the country. And that's like not even – he's in the running for the Heisman right now. And you don't really see it a running back win a Heisman unless they do outstandingly good through a season. And he's doing that right now. And I would like to see him just absolutely go off again, because I want to see him go over Cam Ward, and I want to see him in the one spot because I like seeing running backs do good. And also, Mateer is the best running quarterback in the nation, in my opinion. He just can make plays with the ball, and it's really entertaining to watch. Like, he might be the most entertaining quarterback to watch in college football because he's such a good athlete.
What that guy can do with both his feet and his arm is pretty impressive as a quarterback.
Yeah. Obviously, talking about Ashton Ginty, best running back in the country. Second in Heisman, probably behind Cam Ward, but he's played fantastic. If he can keep this momentum up, I mean, who knows, man? He could have one of the best running back seasons of all time in college football history. He said they don't need Madsen to be a superstar. He just has to do his job. I think Mateer might try to make too many plays and catch himself slipping a few times with the turnover proneness that he had, and just running the ball a little bit. I think Boise State, I mean, has enough film on him to kind of not stop it, but contain it.
I mean, again, looking at both teams, tons of talent on both sides of the ball, and it's definitely going to be one of those games where the rushing attack is the key. We've talked about that a lot in college football this year, that running the ball is super prevalent in college football. Going to make a pick here. Boise, we get to see the blue field, baby, and everybody loves to see the blue field. I mean, this is super fun. It's a late night game. We all get to sit up and enjoy it at nighttime, and that's the best. When you can just flip on college football and that's how you finish your day, there is no better way to finish a day. Going to make a pick. This is so tough. I mean, it is just extremely tough. Washington State has Mateer, a super playmaker, and then Boise, you have the best running back in the country. Yep. I'm going to go Boise State here. They're the best team, in my opinion, outside the Power 5. I love Boise State. I've always liked Boise State. How can you not like that blue, man?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Boise State also. I love that blue field. That's it. And watching a running back that good on that blue field, that's just it. And I want to see him run for like 200 yards this game. That'd be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Boise State Broncos as well, man. Big fan of them since I was a kid as well. I think Ashton Ginty's gonna go off this game. Like I said, I think Mateer's gonna try to make too many plays. And yeah, man. I mean, Washington State was in a double OT game with San Jose State. I don't think Boise State would do that personally, but I got the Broncos.
Yeah, just to quickly give Washington State their flowers, I think this is going to be really close.
Oh, it's going to be a close game.
It's one of those games that could come down. It could come down to that same situation, another OT, double OT, whatever it takes. But it is going to be close, man. Next game here, this is a big one. Arizona traveling to Utah. Again, Utah, in my opinion, was the favorites to win their conference this year, and Arizona could come in here and win a big one. Looking at the passing stats here, Noah Fifita, I mean, the dude's awesome. 863 yards, 5 touchdowns. You love, again, to see him tone down on the interceptions. That is 1 per game so far. And then on the other side, Isaac Wilson, if needed, will play, but they do say that Cam Rising is supposed to play. We've heard that many a times, and we really, truly don't know if Cam Rising will play. With Wilson in there, way too many turnovers. 5 picks, and he hasn't played all 4 games. He is young, so that's part of it. But he's got to tone that down if he comes in this game, because you do not want to blow this one to Arizona. Both running games have been pretty good this year, Dalton, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, Quali Conley he's pretty good. He's not like absurd, but he's getting almost 100 yards a game, and that's pretty good as a running back. And on the other side of the ball, Micah Bernard is the reason Utah's been winning football games. With 456 yards in 4 games, that's a reason why you win football games, and he's showing it. Even though he's only scored 1 touchdown, I mean, the guy's getting them down the field to score touchdowns, and you need that, especially when you're having quarterback problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tetairoa McMillan's a big key to this Arizona offense as well. Fifita's not looked like the passer he could be. I mean, he was low-key top 10 favorite to win a Heisman early on, and he's just not looked that part so far. He's a great player, though. Just don't think he's been able to execute in big situations. But yeah, Teteroa McMillan. I mean, he's had games where he's had 180 yards, 190 yards. I mean, heck, the first game of the season he had 200 or something. I mean, crazy. But he also had a few games where he's not played as well as he could have. But yeah, I think that those two get that connection going early. I think that can be big for them.
Yeah, in the receiving game, like you mentioned, Teteroa McMillan, in my opinion, the best receiver in the entire country. I think, as you said, he is the big playmaker, and Fafita has to get him the ball. Fafita has made mistakes this year, hasn't used him as he should. And in the game they lost, if you watch that one, it was literally, if you threw the ball up to McMillan, he caught it. And they weren't going to that well over and over and over. If you have a player like Teteroa McMillan, go to him until you can't. Go to him as many times as you can in a football game and abuse the fact that he is that much better than the corners that are guarding him. On the other side, for Utah, it's Brant Keithy. I mean, the dude has been great this year. He's 24 years old. He's played a lot of college football. He has a lot of experience. He will help a young quarterback if Rising doesn't play. That is the perfect guy to have with a young quarterback. Going to make a pick in this one. We don't know the status of Cam Rising, although they say he might play. It's never a guarantee, and Utah is definitely not the same team when Cam Rising is not playing. Dalton, I'll let you lead us on this one.
I hate leading this one. We'll be honest. This is a crazy game here because Utah, you really don't know what they're going to do because of the quarterback situation. I would like them to run the ball, but the Arizona team, they're the same way. If they can pass the ball, you have one of the best receivers in the country, if not the best receiver in the country. And if you can get in the ball, you win the ball game. But I just think Utah will come out and run the ball pretty well, so I'm going to get Utah.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Utah. Now, I think Arizona has a great chance to win this ball game if Teteroa and Fafita can just get that connection. But I mean, and not playing that well versus Northern Arizona and then getting smoked by Kansas State. I mean, it just hasn't looked good for Arizona early on. But I think Utah, even with the loss of Cam Rising so far this year, and maybe they lose him again. But if he comes back, I mean, I think that's big for Utah. Either way, I pick Utah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Utah will take this one. We go with a sweep here again. But I think the big thing is, and you mentioned it, Arizona has struggled against opponents that they're not the same level as Utah is. Utah is one of the best teams in the country. They have looked like it, and they have played with a backup quarterback, and they're still 4-0, and they've beat good football teams with him playing. Their running game is dynamic. Dalton spoke about it.
Yep.
It is super key to get that going. Again, I think Cam Rising will play this week. I'm hopeful he will. He did sit out last week, so whatever was injured, he should be healed. When Cam Rising plays, they're terrifying, and I think Utah will win this football game. Next game. This is it. This is the biggest game of this week. It's arguably one of the biggest games of the year. This one matters to both teams in more ways than just one. It's obviously important to be undefeated in your conference, but on top of that, these two teams hate each other, and it's been a heated rivalry for the last 4 or 5 years. Looking at the stats, both teams, they're elite. They have elite talent across the field in every position. Looking at the passing leaders, Carson Beck, he was the presumed number 1 overall pick to start the year. I think right now you would say maybe he's dropped down a little bit, but I mean, the guy's still really, really good. He's consistent. He doesn't turn the ball over. That helps him a lot. And looking at the other side of the ball, one of the most dynamic playmakers in college football, Jalen Milroe. His legs, what he can do when he gets down the field, making plays in general, rolling out. He's so good. He's a freak athlete at quarterback. Again, look at his stats: 35 for 52, 590 passing yards, 8 touchdowns. I think they'll need him more passing the ball in this game. I think Georgia will do a better job than a lot of teams do at containing his running game. But I mean, again, it's going to be so fun. Dalton, talk about the running attack for both teams.
Yeah, both teams have a pretty good running attack, and that being Trevor Etienne, I love watching him. I hate Georgia and I hate Alabama. Just getting that over the way. I'm a Tennessee fan. Everybody knows that. I hate both of these teams. I hate talking good about either one of them. But Trevor Etienne, I watched him when he was at Florida. Nate Frazier is his backup, but he plays good when he gets opportunity. Alabama, they have 2 crazy good running backs too, that and Jam Miller and Justice Haynes. Both really good. And I think the running game wins the ball game for whoever runs the ball the best here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the running game is super important for both teams. Jam Miller is so important to this team. It was a game like USF that he was very dominant in that football game. I mean, you go back and look at the stats. The dude was a super important player. And then looking at the receiving stats for Georgia, Dominic Lovett has been their guy, but they have so many targets. I mean, they have Dylan Bell, and then, of course, they have one of the best tight ends in the country in Oscar Delp. Joey here actually attended the University of Alabama, big-time Alabama football fan, and I'll let him talk about the rest of Alabama's stats.
Yeah, and like as I talked about earlier, with Jeremiah Smith being the second best freshman receiver. My opinion, best receiver. Ryan Williams. I mean, right off the bat, week 1. I mean, he played fantastic. He's just been really consistent for us. Big playmaker guy, perfect for Milrose type of style, deep balls, and just being able to create plays in space. We also have Jeremy Bernard. He's transferred from Washington when DeBoer came to Alabama. He's played well. And then we have Kendrick Law, one of the fastest players in the nation. If you can get him going, I think he's a great second or third wide receiver. So yeah, if we can just get those guys going, like Dalton talked about, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, super important. I agree with him wholeheartedly. The running game is what decides this game.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke about it. Ryan Williams, 17-year-old kid, and I mean, you could arguably say he's dominating college football. The guy,
he's not even allowed to buy a lottery ticket right now, and he's out here cooking people.
He's not turning 18 till after the season too. He's 17.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's awesome. And you mentioned Kendrick Law. He hasn't got going yet, but his speed is an unbelievable part of his game. And if you can get him going, he's elite with the speed.
Yeah.
Going to make a pick here. It's obviously the game for most of the season. We're going to say this is top 2, top 3 games of the year. Of course, Alabama gets the home game here. And that is so important in this type of game. It can swing the game when the teams are so close in talent. Going to make a pick. Dalton, I'll let you lead us here.
Oh, I hate both these teams. But I've been in Bryant-Denny. I've been in Bryant-Denny a lot. I used to go to a lot of Alabama games. I won't claim it, but I did. But Georgia's good. I'm gonna go Roll Tide, Alabama. I've never said Roll Tide in my life. I just said it. Go Alabama, I guess. I can't even say that. Go Vols, but Alabama.
Yeah, I can't agree with you there. I think I said coming into the year, I thought Texas, Georgia, they so far to me have separated themselves as the best teams in the country, and everybody has struggled so far this year, except for Texas. And I think I'm going to take Georgia in this game, but I think it will be super close. I mean, it's another one of those classics that'll come down to a last-second field goal or one of those last-second drives by one of the 2 quarterbacks to win it. But I'm going to take Georgia.
Yeah, like Manger said, great games the past few years, man. I mean, last year in the SEC championship was a fantastic game. I mean, these teams have been so competitive. It's so heated as well, man. Just being on campus last year when we played them in the SEC championship, I mean, it was just all on people's minds. But yeah, I'm going to go with Georgia in this game. I think we beat them last year in the SEC championship, but I just think Beck is more consistent as a passer. Etienne, I mean, he's not played as great as he could have played this year, but I think he's a big factor. And their defense, man, their defense is so tough. And like Mago spoke on earlier, if they can contain Milrose's run game, I think that's gonna really hurt us.
Yeah, I mean, we have the resident Alabama fan, and he did pick Georgia, but I understand where he's coming from. I mean, Kalen DeBoer takes over for a program that is historic, and losing Nick Saban is going to be important in some game. And if any game, it's going to be this one. Kirby Smart is, I mean, he's taken over the role as being the best guy in college football when Saban retired. And if any guy can scheme up a game and beat somebody, I would take Smart as being that guy in college football right now. So, yeah, I think Georgia does get it done because of that. Thank you guys so much for watching this week. It's obviously been a fun week of pick'ems. We have some massive games this week. Looking ahead, whenever the year started, this was one of those weeks you circled because you have Georgia, Alabama, and we all knew it was going to be massive. I'm excited for it. Dalton, you have anything you want to add?
I'm excited for the Alabama-Georgia game because I think that this is my opinion. This is the reason I picked Alabama because I want Alabama to win this because I hope they have that confidence going into Tennessee and we just tear them down from the top level all the way to the ground. Go Vols.
Joe, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, great slate of games this week. One of the best weeks, if not the best week this college football season. I'm excited to watch these games, man, especially the Alabama-Georgia one, of course, Roll Tide Roll, but also the Boise State-Washington State game. I think that's an underrated game. It should be a fun watch night game at Boise State's field. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, again, thank you guys so much for watching us. And we might have some more special guests here and there. Leave some comments if you guys liked it. Heck, maybe we have a special guest that wants to stick around. Maybe he wants.
Hey, I'm trying to get this guy too. Hey, I think he can do it.
It's always good to have other people to bounce ideas off of, and if everybody likes it, heck yeah, we'll stick with it. Again, subscribe if you guys enjoy our content, like it, please. It does a lot. We're trying to build this channel up and hopefully get some more viewers from outside. And peace out, everybody.
Peace.
See y'all.